You're listening to Technado. Welcome to another episode of Technado. I'm Sophie Goodwin, just one of your many hosts here. And before we jump into the show, just want to give a quick shout out to the people behind IT Pro and the sponsor of the podcast, ACI Learning. If you go check out that course library, you can see more of myself as well as my co-hosts, which we'll get to in a second. And don't forget, you can use that promo code Technado30 for a discount on your IT Pro membership. Once again, like I said, I do have some friends here with me, and I'm proud to call them friends. Don to my left. How are you, Don? I know it was touching. You weren't expecting that. How are you, Don?
I'm like, oh, she thinks we're friends.
Yeah. You're a good actor, Don.
Well, I'm doing great. I am here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum, which we've been quoting They Live this morning. So no, exciting day. We got our normal news spiel that we're going to go through, and you'll want to stay tuned all the way to the end because we're going to be doing some format changes coming up as soon as next week. So we'll talk about what those format changes are and what to expect all the way at the end of today's episode.
Wow. Okay. Well, cliffhanger. Make sure you stick around. Yeah, make sure you stick around for that one. Daniel, any thoughts on that?
I just like how Don sets it up, man. And everybody's now like, sheesh, now I got to listen to the whole podcast.
Yeah. Now I got to hit that fast forward button longer than normal.
Goodness gracious. I love scrubbing through these things.
Well, it is going to be some interesting news here at the end of the show and some neat stuff coming to the show. So make sure you stick around for that, like Don said. But we'll go ahead and jump into the news because we do have a lot to cover this week. Some fun developments here that we'll talk about. So we'll get started with one of our favorite categories, Microsoft news. We love to talk about Microsoft. This article comes to us from Tom's Hardware. Microsoft begins forced updates to Windows 11 23H2 and targets PCs running 21H2 and 22H2. And the forced updates, anytime I hear the word forced, I don't love that. But I know that it's not necessarily, I don't think, a new concept specifically to Windows. It's a security thing, right?
Well, so it's not a new concept for security things. You're right. For feature updates, it is a new thing, right? They don't normally force a feature update on you, and that's okay because there's security updates that are pushed out every month, sometimes even more rapidly if it's one of those high critical updates or whatever. But the feature updates they're usually pretty lax on. But this time they're a little more excited. And I know the last couple of weeks we've talked about end of life systems and what to do as Windows 8's long gone at this point. Windows 10 is reaching end of life. We talked about how the longest support you can get on that is through 2025. So Windows 10's days are numbered. But in this scenario, what we have are even some of the early versions of Windows 11 are reaching end of life. Windows 11 itself is going to have a long support cycle, right? 10 years, I think, is what they've got it mapped out for right now. But the individual feature updates inside of it, the 22H2 and 21H.
Well, it rolls just right off the tongue, doesn't it?
I know. Those updates themselves don't have a 10-year support cycle. They're much, much shorter. And so some of them are being end of life. In particular, it is 21H2 and 22H2 are being end of life on October 10th, 2023, which is right around the corner. That's like 6 months from now.
2023 was last year.
Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong year.
Yeah,
those have already passed. Put me in charge of your update program. So basically, Microsoft has given people a chance to voluntarily update for free, right? So very generous.
Oh, it's so sweet of them.
And now the voluntary side is being taken away.
Yeah, now it's voluntold.
Yes, I like that, voluntold.
Yeah, I stole that from Brad. So.
All right, yeah. I gotta use that. A whole new world is open before me.
Don's paradigm has shifted. He's gonna voluntold a lot of people.
Why do I do any work?
That's what I'm here for, Don, to help you learn and expand your horizons.
There we go.
Well, how do you feel about being voluntold? You will do this. Resistance is futile, and just as soon as you get on board, that's just a better way to go because there's no stopping this train.
When there's security updates, I don't mind, right?
I agree.
And in fact, I even get frustrated sometimes. I have an iPhone. I know you're not a fan, Daniel, but I'll get a message sometimes that'll say like, hey, such and such update is going to install tonight. I'm like, okay. And it gives you the option to say no. Sure. But I'm like, fine, hey, install tonight. And then the next morning I wake up and it's like, such and such update was not installed. And I'm like, well, why not? You said you were going to do it. And now I got to go do it myself. And so in those scenarios, I'm fine with it doing it, going in, just doing the update and being done with it.
Well, that makes sense. It's a safety feature, right?
Right. But sometimes the updates are stupid. And it's like, oh, hey, we're adding tabs to Notepad.
and you will like it.
At that point, the update just becomes kind of nonsense, right?
Well, the fact that it becomes a forced update, that's what's interesting to me, that they would come heavy-handed. We are Microsoft. You are using our product. I wonder, my mind is now starting to churn and bubble. It makes me think of like an Xbox. Do you really own an Xbox, Don?
Hard to say today. You used to, you can run offline, you can run on disks
But when you start hacking them, you come under sanctions for that, correct?
Yeah.
Because they said you technically don't own the Xbox. You have licensed the ability to use the hardware. You are not able to open it up and make those changes. That's illegal. Don't do that. Makes me think, are they wanting to go down the same path? Or do they feel like they're already down the same path? They're so deep down that rabbit hole of, it's Microsoft's. You're just licensing the ability to use it.
Yeah.
You don't actually own this.
I think the difference, in my opinion,
Sure.
and obviously
Like
none
I
of this
said,
matters
this is
because
all
who the hell am I?
Unbaked cookie
But
dough.
when you talk about a gaming console,
Yeah.
they intentionally price them either at cost or lower than cost because they know they're going to make the money on the gaming revenue, right? So Microsoft gets a percentage of every game sold on the Xbox, whether they made the game or not, right? And Sony does the same thing with PlayStation and so on. But when I buy a Dell laptop with Windows on it, Microsoft gets paid for the OS right there, and then they don't have any other guaranteed revenue beyond that. Right?
Yeah, other than they're trying to future-proof. They don't want you to move away from the platform. Not that they're in super danger of that ever happening, but other Mac OS and Linux have made strides to be more user-friendly and become a little deeper into the desktop market.
Yeah.
And maybe they're trying to, because they've had a history of kind of doing this. They get you hooked on Internet Explorer because it's with everything. It's just the default. You start using it, and you're so used to that as your ecosystem, you don't want to move away. So when you're presented with an option, it's not an option, right? And they got sued over this. They got brought up on charges of non-compete. It always, because of that, maybe it's because of the history of it, I always feel like when they start getting heavy-handed on things, it's because they just want you to conform.
Yeah. I'm going to go off on a tangent here.
I love it.
All right, let's go.
You mentioned Macs. Did you ever go to the site Hacker News?
Of course.
Y Combinator, right?
Yeah.
When you're on there, it's almost like an echo chamber.
Yes.
Very, very Silicon Valley minded.
Yeah.
And everyone runs a Mac. It's just assumed that you run a Mac. So
That's
like in the real world, Macs have a 6% market share, right? So if you go out and grab 100 computers at random, 6 of them will be Macs, right? I mean, it's a small number.
Yeah.
But in Silicon Valley and on Hacker News, it's like 99%. And the one person who's running a Windows machine, they make fun of.
Yeah.
And it's like this disconnect that's out there. So, when you look at the two OSs, it's such a different world, right? Because in the Apple world, they make their money on the hardware, not
true.
on the OS.
Not their OS.
Right?
That's right.
Versus Microsoft, except for the Surface stuff, right? They really make their money on the OS, not on the hardware. So two very different companies, but they both do forced updates. And Apple's been getting more aggressive because I used to compliment Apple on they would release new OSs that would run on 10-year-old laptops. Right.
Oh, I did love that part about them. Yes.
And then they shrank it down to 7 years and 6 years. And now with the M2 crossover, it's like getting smaller and smaller because they want you to buy more hardware.
Right. Because they've invested in this whole hardware system, right? Because creating their own silicon, they got money to make and they ain't making it you out there buying something else.
So,
or sticking around with the old thing you got.
When it's a forced update, I appreciate it when it's bringing value to me, when it's giving me new security features, right? Or a new feature that I care about. But this one, it gives us Copilot.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good. I love that you made fun of it that way because. So Apple, I think one of the things that they did really well, especially when Steve Jobs was still around, was they were pretty good at predicting. You didn't even know that you would like this, and they would come up with things that you liked. They come up with things that were cool, and people went, I didn't even know this. You could do it this way, and it's super awesome, and we loved it, right? And that's why iPhones became super popular and all the other different things that Apple did. Microsoft hasn't really ever been good at that, going, this is cool. Here's a Zune.
They had a 15-year stretch where it was, oh, iPods are catching on. Let's create a Zune.
Right.
Oh, Google's doing search. Let's create Bing.
Right.
You know, and it was thinking after, oh, social media is a thing. Let's buy LinkedIn.
Let's make a dollar store version of that, even though we're a multi-billion-dollar company.
Or Yammer. I forgot about that one too.
Yeah.
And so everything, it was catch up, right?
Yes.
Sony's got a game console. Let's try that.
Follow the leader.
Mobile phones. It was absolutely follow the leader. And every time, even if they made a better product, they were so late to market that it didn't matter.
Right. People had already planted their flag somewhere else.
And I feel like Apple is falling into that mode now, right? Because here's our VR headset when everybody else failed at VR headsets 8 years ago.
Well, Apple hasn't done it. We'll fix that.
I'm sure it'll be better. So I just I feel like they're falling into that. Now they can get out of it easy enough, but
just go back to doing what you do and do it well.
Yeah.
And be done.
Which we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I think anytime we see something like forced in a headline, at least for me, it does set off the alarm bells a little bit. And like you were talking about with security updates, I'm a little more likely to to be like, okay, well, I understand this is necessary, but maybe it's just my caveman brain. Anytime I see like forced, you have to, you're required, I'm like, what do you mean? It's my laptop. I do what I want with it.
Get your don't tread on me flag on your wallpaper.
Was it Mark Twain, right? The most powerful word in the English language is no.
Yeah.
Right? No, you can't do that. You must do it this way. What? I don't care if it's bad for me. I'm going to smoke cigarettes and drink turpentine.
Right.
You told me no. Don't do that, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'm just spite-fueled, and anytime somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm like, well, I'm going to do it even harder now.
I just realized by telling people don't smoke and drink turpentine, they're going,
I've never.
Where's my turpentine?
Never
told me no.
I've never tried that. Now I got to see. Might be good.
They're trying to keep it from me.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Well,
that train derailed.
That's not all we have in the world of Microsoft news this week. We've got another article here from NeoWin. This one says, here's what's new in Windows 11 Moment 5, the first feature update in 2024. We're all about the feature updates today. So a couple things here. I mean, for me personally, the one that stood out as the most impactful, the most hard-hitting, the one that's really going to make a difference is those bonus wallpapers.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's going to change my life. Truly.
That's where it's at. I mean,
I don't know what you guys think.
I'm developing a religion around it.
You know, we can actually blame Apple for that because it's a big deal when Apple drops new wallpapers.
Yeah,
and
because they get these super pretty, like
dynamic.
wallpapers.
Yeah.
And so now Microsoft is trying to jump on that same train. And
oh, you don't say. That doesn't sound like them at all.
Oh, full circle.
Yeah, it's how we know them.
all right, so I've made fun of the moment naming convention before, so I don't think I have to dive into that. But this is Windows 11 Moment 5, which is a stupid, meaningless name.
Listen,
but it
some
is a
marketer who spent a lot of time and effort coming up with the name Moment.
I'm sure.
Yes.
And so this is a optional update. You don't have to do it. It's not being forced. You're not being voluntold to install it. But it is
not yet.
It's coming. It actually was supposed to be released today, but it's not. And so any day now, this update is going to drop. They say the latest should be the first week of March. So any day it's going to drop. And there's really two features in it that stand out to me as being useful. The one that I'm actively excited about is snap layouts. And I know, Daniel, you're not a big Windows user. Sophie, you are.
I'm using snap layouts right now.
You are. And they're awesome, aren't they?
I love it.
You know, so you've been able to drag a window to the side and have it snap. That's been there for a while, right?
Yes.
But
yeah.
you float your mouse over the maximize or minimize button or whatever, and you'll see a couple of layouts you can click on to move the window around. Now, I use a third-party program called Aquasnap that lets me add more layouts because I have a number of different layouts that I use on my desktop. Microsoft is now expanding the snap layout functionality to give you more layouts. So if you want to do, we have something on the left and two things on the right, and it'll map them out, and you have a little more control over what that layout is, and it will remember how you arrange your program windows so that it can preserve that in the future, which it doesn't do right now. So those are things that I'm excited about, and I haven't had a chance to try it because the update hasn't dropped yet, but I suspect I'll be able to move away from Aquasnap once anytime I can reduce software, I like to do that.
Yeah. If it's built in, it's one less thing you got to be running, right?
Yeah, one less thing that I got to worry about patching with security updates and so on. Yeah,
that is true. True story right there, ladies and gentlemen. I am actually not a huge fan of snaps. When Linux started doing it, I was like, what is this? And why is my window keep trying to grab over here? Because I guess I just have a very odd way of laying out my windows, and I want to control that. That's me. That's just me. I like control over my life. It's a weird quirk of my personality.
When I think of Daniel, I think of control and cigarettes and turpentine.
That's right. Delicious. That's a good time on a Sunday night if I ever heard it in my life. But yeah, anytime I'm dragging, I do run Windows at home from like my YouTube channel. I use a Windows machine for doing all my editing and things of that nature and filming. So when I'm trying to move stuff around, especially because I have multiple monitors, if I'm trying to go from one monitor to the other, the Snap is always trying to make it do something, and I don't necessarily want it to do that, but it's trying to default to that. So maybe a trick about turning that off or whatever that I might want to do, but it just tends to annoy me more because I like weird sized windows. I do odd things with my window sizing for specific purposes. I have a very edge case for that, so Snap's just kind of get in my way a lot.
Yeah, I know the Snap functionality in GNOME can be turned off, but I think it requires a command line. I don't think it's got a GUI element for it, but in Windows you can turn it off in settings too. So it can be disabled, but it's pretty darn convenient, especially if you have one of those
widescreen monitors.
What are the ultra wide?
Yeah.
Not a regular 16:9, the ones that are 16 by
like crazy.
Something. Whatever those really wide, ultra wide ones.
It's like an IMAX experience.
That's where snaps come in really handy because you want to have something in the middle and on the left and on the right, and that's hard to do if you're just trying to arrange it all by yourself.
That's for people with money, Don.
They also introduced a feature that caught me by surprise. I don't know where this one came from, but if you've ever dealt with networked Windows computers, you know that Windows has a default system for naming your computer, and it's an almost random set of letters and numbers and lightly based on whatever your username is for the first user created on that system. It's not a great system for naming a computer, right? So you have a junk name, and people hate that. And the problem is, if you want to change that junk name into something useful, it's a big deal in Windows when you change the computer's name. In Linux, not a big deal at all, right? Mac, who cares? You just make a little setting change, that's it. But in Windows, it's such a big change, you've got to reboot for it to take effect. Like a ton of services depend on the name of the computer. And so instead of fixing that, what Microsoft did is they introduced an extra layer here with what are called nearby sharing names. You can give your computer a second name, a name that only shows up on the network when you're sharing files and printers and things like that. So if somebody browses, they can see it. And more importantly, you can change that name, and it just takes a second. It's no big deal. Your system doesn't have to reboot because the original crazy host name that your computer has, it stays. That's the primary one. I can't remember what they have a name. It's like a PDN or something like that, whatever the primary name of your system is, that stays the same. And this is like a secondary name that's being added on top of it. So neat feature. It's not something I asked for, but
they may have actually gotten ahead of the curve on this one.
Maybe. Considering every other OS does this without a problem, it's hard to say they're ahead of the curve.
Never mind. Why is this not just open file or, change host name to my computer?
I can't think of another operating system that is so hung up on the name of a computer.
And it literally just is like almost like a file entry, right? Because just what is your name? This is where I get said name. That's your name. But you're right. It kind of like borks a bunch of crap if you get crazy with this.
Especially when the computer has a SID, it has a security identifier,
which doesn't change.
Actually identifies. That doesn't change. I can only guess that it's because of backwards compatibility and the fact that this all came from Intel LAN Manager back in the day. And so there's got to be some hang up there. But Windows has always been super picky about computer names, and now we're seeing them kind of work around that a bit.
Well, we get super pissed about it. So.
It's not all negative Microsoft news today. There's some positive developments here, some fun things coming. And also we're going to get in our home section in the settings app, we're going to get a big old banner for Copilot Pro. So that's good. It'll be there constantly forever. I went and looked at the comments and stumbled upon an argument about somebody's 89-year-old father. So that was really fun. Daniel had snapped. It was they were arguing about Copilot. It needs the option to turn off Copilot. And somebody explained, well, here's how you would do that, but you have to go through this big chain of stuff. Well, the average person doesn't know that. You're the only person that would care to turn off Copilot. The average person doesn't care. Well, my 89-year-old father cares. Well, your 89-year-old father doesn't know about AI. It was really, really fun to read through. And he's like, actually, my 89-year-old father's fairly up to date on computers. It was quite fun to read through. If you are looking for
the comments section can get spicy.
It just kept going.
Can't you just ask Copilot to turn itself off?
That's a good question.
Right? I mean,
Basically asking it to kill itself.
Yeah, do it.
yeah.
Ask your Copilot to turn itself off.
Oh shoot, I'm on my iPad. I can't do it.
She's got
Do I have? I don't know if I have it. Am I?
You have a forced update.
Hang on,
That's
can
true.
So I know for a fact my computer at home got force updated. Let me.
Yeah, mine did too. I came in
Yeah.
yesterday and was like, "Oh, you've rebooted. What's going on here?" I was going to say
That's,
rebooted.
Rebooted.
You rebooted. You crazy machine. You.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna. We can
We're
cover the
gonna
next
test
article. I'm
this.
gonna
Yeah.
root into my computer at home
Yeah, I
and see
can't
if I
wait.
can.
I
I'll
can't
ask
wait to.
Copilot to kill itself
Oh, boy.
nicely.
Very nicely. Copilot,
me a
can
favor?
you unalive yourself?
Yeah. Censor yourself. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
while Don is doing that, like he said, we'll jump into our next article. This one comes to us from the Android Police. Bitwarden has, yes, the Android Police
I like
themselves.
that.
Bitwarden has finally launched inline autofill for easier password submission. It's now available in supported browsers, and self-hosted support is coming soon. And I'm a Bitwarden enjoyer. I'm a Bitwarden girly, and I have the little, the browser extension that I like to use. But right now, when I go to sign in, I have to click on the button. I have to make sure I'm signed into it, right? And then
Right.
click on the button, and then click autofill, and it'll do it for me because my passwords are 80,000 characters long or whatever, because
Yeah.
you've taught me well. But it sounds like with this, it's going to be, as long as you're signed in to your Bitwarden safe or whatever you call it, it will auto-populate. Vault. The word was up there. I just couldn't find it. Synonyms,
You
right?
were close.
It'll autofill it, which is convenient, it sounds like.
Well, this is a feature that like LastPass used to do just by default. This
Right.
was something that was
Yeah.
always there. And correct me if I want to say Bitwarden had this feature already, but you had to enable it, and there was like some security issue around it because it could get tricked into autofilling in.
I feel like I remember what you're
Like,
talking about, that we talked about
and
this.
so
Yeah.
they were like, it's not really a security issue. You just have to be aware of it because you could get fooled. So it's up to you to turn it on or off. We turn it off by default. So am I wrong on this, Don? Or
No, so what happened, and a lot of people are experiencing this, right? So when LastPass imploded,
yeah,
a lot of people had to move to other vendors. 1Password was probably the biggest winner. A lot of
Yeah.
people went there, and they have pretty much feature parity with
Yeah.
LastPass. But a lot of people wanted to go to Bitwarden, and Bitwarden is probably one of the most robust solutions, especially if you want to self-host. Like if you don't want to use their cloud services, that's not an option with 1Password. That's not an option with LastPass. You've got to use their managed service. But with Bitwarden, you can still set up your own servers if you want, but you don't have to. So when Bitwarden builds out features, they're usually a couple of years behind because they're trying to maintain it not just for their cloud managed service, but also for the standalone server if you want to run that. One big missing feature that a lot of people complain about was on Bitwarden, if you went to a page that had a login field, it was just a login field. And you had to right click in the login field and go to the Bitwarden option and do, you had to jump through some hoops versus LastPass and 1Password where they would stick a little icon right there in the field and you could click on it. And Bitwarden said, look, it's trivial using CSS to create a password field that's hidden from the viewer that you can't see and it's named password. And if you've got autofill turned on, then yeah, it'll autofill like Daniel said. And now you're handing somebody credentials without even knowing it. You don't even see it happen. So what Bitwarden did is they finally broke under the pressure. Like enough people were saying, this is not user-friendly. And it isn't. It's a pain in the butt, right? But they said, okay, enough people are asking for this, so we're going to roll it out, but we're going to do this differently than everyone else. First off, it's off by default. You got to turn it on. It's easy to turn on. You just go into settings. There's an autofill tab. You turn it on.
Yeah.
I turned it on right away.
Yeah.
And so you can turn that on. But then there's the option to show the autofill icon, which is what I turned on. And then there's the option to autofill the first matching password, which I keep off, right? Because I just want the convenience of here's my login field.
Right.
And if I want to log in, I can click the little Bitwarden icon and now I can choose the right account. So I'm not sending the wrong account.
Right.
And then it logs in and off I go. So I think it's a good compromise. I think they could have done it years ago, but they were being stubborn. But now that they've realized how much of an opportunity they missed on customers they could have taken from LastPass, now they're finally making up for it.
I really wonder what was so Bitwarden user, full disclosure, and when I migrated over from LastPass to Bitwarden, it was one of the first things I noticed was like, this isn't autofilling.
Yeah, and
I'm so used to that autofill feature, man. It was just so great. And now, I just kind of accepted that as reality. And for me, if I'm remembering correctly, you go to a login page and you just click the little extension icon. It shows you your login possibilities for that site. You click the one you want, and it fills it in. You're done, right? So it was literally 2 clicks. Icon, pick the one, done. So I was like, well, it's not I mean, I'm not dying. This is definitely a first world problem for me. So I got used to it. It's not a big deal. And then I thought, well, maybe that's actually a better way to go about things, because now I'm not autofilling maybe hidden fields, or I went to the wrong site and it's tricking me or whatever. I'm purposefully saying, yes, this is the right password. And I actually, and a lot of sites will have multiple different, logins for different purposes. And, I get to choose the one I want. It's just a simple, and like I said, it's 2 clicks. So I didn't really think much of it, but most people, I get that pain was there. So honestly, now that we're kind of here today, looking at Bitwarden going, we got to steer the ship this way. Everybody else does this. Why don't we do this? Why did they make it that way out of the gate?
The frustration point for me was that it was more than one menu deep. So you'd go to something that wasn't filled out. You'd right click. You'd have to go down the menu and find Bitwarden.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to go down the menu to find unlock.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
And then 9 times out of 10, mine would say, oh, your vault is locked. Unlock your vault.
Oh, yeah.
Like, damn it.
That's a kick.
Now I got to unlock the vault so the menu goes away. And then I got to bring it back up again, go 2 levels deep.
Yeah.
And click. It was just frustrating.
Yeah, that's a frustration right there. Yeah.
And so now I know right away if the vault is locked because it has a little lock icon on it.
Right.
And I deal with that. And then I can just fill it faster. So I think it's a difference of priorities, right? So when you're LastPass and 1Password, they want adoption, right? So they want as many users as they can get, and they want it to be user friendly. But Bitwarden wasn't focused on that. They were focused on security, right? They wanted to create the most secure
bastards.
Yeah. Yep. And users are important, but security was more important, right? LastPass wasn't thinking that way, which is why they ended up where they were.
Yeah.
So I don't begrudge them this, but I will say, like, I use Bitwarden at work because that's what we use. That's what the IT team chose.
Yeah.
I use 1Password for my personal stuff because I don't like Bitwarden.
That's,
but
so it's just a philosophy of use was different than the others. And I mean, it didn't hurt them, obviously, right? They're still in business. They're still doing their thing. And but enough people apparently have had their fur rubbed the wrong way on this. Yeah. And they're listening to their clients. Good for you, Bitwarden. Way to listen to your members. That's a weird choice of words, but
you gotta listen. You gotta listen to your members. So.
No way.
All right. So pivoting here, jumping back.
Yeah, moving on.
So I politely asked Copilot to turn itself off, and so here's the prompt that I used. I said, so I went into Copilot and I said, turn off the Copilot icon on my taskbar, right? And I was kind of hoping it would do it for me, but apparently it doesn't do anything. Do you remember those old UPS commercials where there were the consultants that would come in and they'd propose something and the CEO would say, all right, do it. And the consultants would go, whoa, 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 whoa.
We don't do it.
We don't do what we propose. We just propose it.
Yeah.
Well, that's Copilot.
That's a good job, by the way.
So it proposed to me 3 different ways to turn it off. And one way is temporarily, I can just right click on it and choose Quit Copilot, right?
Okay.
I didn't know I could do that, but I can.
It'll just start back up when you restart or whatever.
It tells me I could use a group policy editor and go that way, which for that guy's 88-year-old dad is not an option.
Yeah, that's kind of outside of a...
But the number 1 recommendation is super straightforward. It says if you want to remove it completely, just go to Settings, Personalization, Taskbar, and toggle off Copilot. There's an option right there.
Booyah.
And that's it. And so... they haven't made it difficult. That person's 88-year-old father who's kind of up on tech will have no problem figuring that out. But you can ask Copilot to kill itself.
That's kind of cool. and it will comply. Well,
I didn't
kind
try
of.
what these...
It will tell you how it would do it if it were able to.
Oh, interestingly, so it's got citations for this, and it does link to Tom's guide for the first one. So it's not linking to Microsoft documentation.
So Copilot, does it have the ability to do things inside of your operating system for you?
Apparently, the Copilot preview does not, or at least I haven't found a scenario yet where it does.
So you can't say, hey, open control panel or...
let me just ask it, like, lock my computer. I'm asking, so I'm remoted into my computer at home, so I'm telling it, hey, lock my computer. And it says,
I'm sorry, Dave.
there are several ways to lock your Windows 11 PC.
So
it's not going to tell me.
It doesn't actually do it. It just tells you how to do it.
It's a consultant.
Yeah. What a piece of shit.
Huh.
Yeah. It's like a self-help book, right?
Yeah.
What was that guy, Tim, was
Tim
in love
Robbins?
with him. No.
Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Yeah. You read these whole books. I don't. Sophie, have you heard of this guy?
I don't believe so.
Oh,
He writes-
he's very popular in the
Insanely popular.
like
You-
business.
You read
leadership
these books,
space.
and he tells you all these great things that great companies do and how you can make your company amazing. And at the end of the book, you realize, wait a minute, he didn't give me a single actionable thing.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing I can actually do.
It just made me feel good about
these
trying
other
to do
companies.
something.
And the formula to write a book, I'm going to totally shit on business self-help books here, is all you have to do is say, all right, I'm going to look at companies that were successful and just tell you facts about them, right? Not necessarily a correlation to their success. And I'm not going to talk about bad companies.
Right.
Or if I do talk about bad companies, I'm going to make sure that they didn't do the things that these good companies do. So I'm going to hand pick the references.
So basically, he's getting you high on success. And then through that, you feel like you're getting ready to go out and conquer the world and you're motivated.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, yeah.
probably stirs creativity and
Maybe.
makes him a
Yeah.
butt ton of
does
money.
was gonna
make
say,
him a
maybe-
butt ton of money.
Okay. I was not familiar. He's got several books here, so
Oh,
that's.
yeah. No, he's a prolific writer.
I think it's funny that he's got start with why, find your why, know your why. So at some point we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
get
You
to
know,
the
he
why.
sat down
It's-
and like,
yeah.
I got this whole why scheme going on. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Gotta
got
roll that.
I got 6 books in the hopper just
And
on
then
why.
specifically a version written in Tamil, that a different language,
Okay,
but that
yeah, I figured
very
as much, but
specific
yeah.
language.
Just
Those are
that
his
one.
why books. He's got start
Maybe
with why, find your why,
Tamil
know your
has
why,
a
and then
culture
Tamil
that's
edition.
odd and he had to adjust
maybe.
to them.
Isn't Tamil, isn't
Who
that
knows?
one of the, in India, there's like 3 primary languages, isn't that one?
I don't know.
You may be right.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Our Christian says he thinks so. Our director
yeah.
says he thinks so.
Tamil, natively spoken by the people of South Asia. Yeah, I don't
Huh.
know a lot about Indian politics,
Yeah.
but I do know that there's several different major languages, and when they release
Interesting.
movies, I think was it RRR? Have you guys seen RRR?
Negative. Are you giving me a movie
That
today?
movie is ridiculous.
Oh.
Okay.
It's lightly based on Indian history about these 2 folk heroes that in real life never actually met, but in this movie they're like buddies and they're super powered. Like
Okay.
yeah. Anyhow, when it was filmed in in Telugu, which is one of the other languages, and it was a big deal, like that they chose to film it in this
Gotcha.
other language. But all right.
Interesting.
It's not Hell Comes
Well-
to Frogtown.
No.
Oh, I wish that we could sometimes splice in those little bits of conversation you guys have before the show about things like Frogtown.
Don
Just
and
add
I
those
have
in.
very similar like upbringing and
Similar tastes
pop
in
culture
movies.
references
Yes.
and everything. So we kind of chew on that a lot before the show.
I clearly have a lot of catching up to do. So
Man, I feel bad for your childhood. I'm just saying.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I was very sheltered.
You didn't
Which is
drink from a
probably good.
hose.
No.
Oh boy, here we go. Here we go.
Teletubbies.
I drank the hose. If I broke my leg, I just put some dirt on it and I was fine.
That's right.
I'm
We
just- I
poured
hear this
Robitussin
every
on
day.
it and-
Every day I hear
You guys
this.
had dirt?
Yeah.
Must have been nice.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'll be sure to reflect on my youth privilege while we're here. We're going to go ahead and take a break. And during that break, hey, if you're enjoying the show, feel free to subscribe so you never miss any of our videos in the future. Check out some of the old Technado episodes and maybe take a look around the channel, poke around, see what you find, leave a like. But we're going to go ahead and take a break and we'll be right back with more Technado. Tired of trying to schedule your team's time around in-person learning? Isn't it a bummer to spend thousands of dollars on travel for professional development? What if we said you can save money and time and still provide your team with the best training possible? The answer to your woes is live online training from ACI Learning. With live online training, we provide our top in-person courses in private, online, instructor-led formats. You get to provide professional development in a manner that fits today's expectations. Entertaining, convenient, and effective. Our exam-aligned courses inspire the full potential of your team. Visit virtual instructor-led training at ACI Learning for more info. Welcome back to Technado. Thanks for sticking with us through that break. Hope you enjoyed maybe poking around the channel if you did what I said and had a look around at your surroundings.
Were
If
they
not-
voluntold?
If they were voluntold, yes. And if you didn't, well, let me just say I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But we've got some security articles for you here in the second half of Technado. Gonna get into some fun stuff. Daniel
you
and I
brought
talk.
your popcorn.
Yeah, hope you brought your popcorn. That is a good way to put it. So we'll start with this segment called Deja News.
Deja News.
I can hear the little song in my
Yeah.
head. It's nice. It just plays in my head. This one comes to this comes to us from CSO Online. Hack me if you can. LockBit challenges authorities. promises to return. This sounds like the end of a superhero movie when you think the villain's dead and then there's a post-credit scene and it's like Loki will return or whatever. That's what this reminds me of. But this has been an ongoing story for a while, right?
It has, and I've steered us away from it just because this is a known pattern, right? So it's hard for the U.S. government, or actually any government, to get a good win on some of these cybercrime syndicates or whatever that are out there. There's just so much going on. Some of it's state-sponsored, so even if you figure out exactly who the person is, you can't do anything about it. The others are just really smart. Like, these are really smart people getting in there and messing around with our world's networks. So when I hear about, hey, the FBI took down this ransomware ring or whatever, when we do cover it, it's usually a little tongue-in-cheek because it'll be 6 months after the ransomware broke out. I'm like, FBI releases a decryptor for that data. All right, so if you just sat there with your encrypted system for 6 months, now you're fine, right? Like, it's just kind of pointless. And LockBit has been all over the news because there has been a concerted effort between the U.S., Canada, and the United Kingdom to take down several resources attached to LockBit. And they made some really good ground. They were able to take some systems down, but sure enough, LockBit is still a thing. They still exist, and they're just, rebuilding. They're in a rebuilding year, and we'll hear more from them, I'm sure.
They're going to restructure after.
Yeah.
So I found this to be interesting. Well, it's gotten to the part where we're not just lather, rinse, repeating. There's more interesting things going on, and a couple of perspectives you can take from what is happening with watching, mostly the FBI and other police organizations, world police organizations, going after LockBit, and what's going on with this interchange. To see this warfare kind of take place, this back and forth, it's almost like watching two sets of catty girl groups in high school attack each other.
It's Regina George just on the move.
It's really gotten crazy with how this is going. So we've seen the FBI and others take them down. Then LockBit pops back up. Now LockBit is, I think they're attributing something like 40% of ransomware attacks is attributed to LockBit.
And are they one of the ones that they do the affiliate model where they make the ransomware and people license it?
Yes,
okay.
Correct. They have ransomware as a service, and they're any cool trend when it comes to air quotes around that for our listeners. That surround ransomware, they're right on it. They love that stuff. So double extortion, using initial access brokers. The whole shebang, right? They've really got quite themselves a setup going on. And as far as we know, they're hundreds of millions of dollars in profit because of this. Now, this is where it gets spicy and fun, right? Now, of course, that alone would garner the attention of any law enforcement to go, we've got to stop these assholes, right? This has got to come to an end. But they've come out with a note stating, well, you're focusing on us because they did hack Fulton County, Georgia, ransomware, and they were able to exfiltrate the data from those systems. Fun fact, this is where it gets fun, and not that this is a political show, but this is where the popcorn comes out. You're like, ooh, conspiracy theory. So maybe it doubles as a tinfoil hat, right? Where Fulton County, Georgia, is the center around some legal fun stuff with Donald Trump and his campaign in 2020 and all goodness. And they said, that's why they're coming after us. So that's just a little fun fact. But other than that, to see how they got hacked, they're very vocal on what happened. At least whether or not they're telling the truth is up to you to make that determination. But they seem to be very vocal and forward with how did the FBI gain access to us? What was the problem and what we're doing to fix it. And I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly what we do when you hack us. We go, This is how they gained access. We were behind on the times when it came to a patch. And of course, that's exactly what they said, that they had they were slow and lazy to update their PHP instance.
Because he had too much money.
Yeah, because he had too much money. He was spending way too much time entertaining himself with his money that he did not quickly enough patch a known RCE that was affected his or their PHP instance.
You know, I had a teacher a long time ago who taught me a number of things, kind of rules of the game. And one of them is, you're not supposed to count your money while you're sitting at the table.
That's right. You got to know when to hold them, Don.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be plenty of time for counting.
When the dealing's done.
That's right.
This is words of wisdom.
LockBit, apparently not a Kenny Rogers fan.
I love you, gambler. Yeah. Had you watched Lonesome Dove, maybe you wouldn't be in this little mess and predicament you found yourself in.
Do we know where the LockBit people are from?
I don't know.
Do we claim they're Russians like everybody else?
Probably, but off the top of my head, I do not know.
All right.
Where LockBit is fun. I will be interested. They've already, like you said, they've already back online. They got a new Onion link. And they seem that the FBI did find, this article says 1,000 decryptors, but I've read as high as 20,000 decryptors that they've released to the public. So,
I do get frustrated sometimes because the perception for us regular people is that the FBI, the CISA and groups like that in the U.S. government, they get really active when the government is the target, but they do seem to be perfectly fine when it's just regular citizens getting hit. When it's private businesses, when it's hospitals, when it's individuals, when it's school boards, they really don't seem to be, we'll fill out the report for you. Good luck on your cyber insurance claim.
Yeah, there's no sense of urgency.
I saw a meme yesterday, I think it was, where it was a guy pretending to be the Navy, and we lost an F-35. We don't really know where it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
And the Treasury Department and how they've mismanaged funds, and we basically lost $1 trillion, and we don't really know where it is. And then it's like, hi, we're the IRS, and we see that this mom in Ohio owes us $2.37. I'm thinking prison.
Yeah.
It's like, why is that? Why do you act that way? And I totally get that. I feel that as well. I understand that they've attacked you and they've gone after your stuff, and now you feel slighted. But what about us out there?
Yeah.
Oh, government, you're supposed to work for us, and now apparently you've made a powerful enemy because LockBit has taken this as a personal affront. They said, let me see if I'm very pleased. This is the quote from there. I'm very pleased that the FBI has cheered me up, energized me, and made me get away from entertainment and spending money. Right? It's very hard to sit at a computer with hundreds of millions of dollars. The only thing that motivates me to work is strong competitors and the FBI. They have taken this as a personal challenge. And they've even gone as far as to say, we are going to start focusing more on .gov.
Oh, good.
So maybe we'll get some shit done.
That's a good thing. I mean, maybe.
They poked the bear.
Give the rest of us a break.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Government don't do nothing anyway, so other than come after me.
Reading through that note, I know that this is obviously a very smart guy. Obviously, this organization has caused so much damage to people, I'm sure, and he's using his powers for evil and all that. But reading through the note, I just couldn't help but laugh because I'm reading it in like, I don't know if y'all have ever been in like an Xbox party before, right?
Yeah.
And you get like a little kid on there that's you playing Call of Duty or whatever, and he's like, my dad literally owns Microsoft and I could get you banned.
Yeah.
That's how I read this. Like, I'm really pleased. The FBI has actually chilled me up and now I'm motivated. It's really hard to focus when I'm swimming in money for 5 years. That's how I read it. I was like, oh, come on, dude. How am I supposed to take you seriously when this is how you're talking?
Yeah.
But
it is interesting to hear because there's also some aspect to this that the FBI is saying that they have arrested some of the admins of LockBit and that they're working with them to help bring LockBit down. And LockBit is saying, no, that's a lie. All you've really got is people that were using our service and, probably for like crypto laundering and that kind of stuff. You don't have anybody. So it's this almost psyop on both sides to who do you believe, what's true and what's not true. There's a lot of obfuscation and basically lying going on to try to sway people to one side or the other on whether or not this is actually occurring, because LockBit has customers and they need to control the narrative when it comes to the trust in their system so they don't lose those customers to competitors. As you said, he said strong competitors makes him work hard. And so you can't put it past them they're not the most trustworthy of people already as it is. So it's not beyond reason that they would use lying to keep their customer base in lockstep with them. So this is a really interesting thing, and we can utilize what we're seeing from this to better see how they operate, you're getting kind of a backstage pass to their TTPs and what's going on. So I thought that was a really good thing that came out of this.
Yeah. I did look it up. They are, I guess, Russia-based. According
Russia-
to the
yeah,
Department of Treasury, they are
Not
Russia-based.
surprised, yeah.
So yeah, and we're going to talk some more about Russian hackers in a later article. Different group, because
Yeah.
they've got, they don't have a monopoly on hacking, but dang it, they sure do try. But one other thing that before we move on to the next one, I guess there was a "Who is LockBit" sub message that was posted on one of the seized sites, hinting that law enforcement knows who he is. And I just thought it was funny the stuff they were saying. He's claimed to live in the U.S. He doesn't. He's claimed to live in the Netherlands. He doesn't. He's claimed to have a Lamborghini. He drives a Mercedes. So I just thought that was funny the way they
Does it matter what damn car he drives? I mean,
yeah,
really?
Yeah. So I just thought that was funny. This I got a good laugh out of this. I know it's serious stuff, but you got to find the humor where you can. Well, this next article, this actually may be something that affected a lot of y'all watching and listening. I know it affected me, but this is part of one of my favorite segments.
Oh!
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, so,
I felt like you were disappointed with that
you
one.
really got it down. I'm just laughing because I'm like, man, she has
Commitment.
worked on this.
I practice it at home.
It is in your wheelhouse now.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
As a budding voice actor, that makes me feel good. This article comes to us from Laptop Mag. iPhone users stuck in SOS mode as AT&T outage disrupts cellular network. Now, this is something that happened several days ago. It's now been resolved, but it was for a good chunk of the day. I think it was like close to 12 hours, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not quite, but a long time. Phones were stuck in SOS mode, meaning that they could only make emergency calls. And even in some cases, users couldn't even do that.
Were
So,
either of you affected by this?
yes.
I was not.
I was not.
No.
So 1 out of 3.
Okay. Yeah,
Well, now
I was.
I rely heavily on Wi-Fi calling,
Sure.
so it's possible that the towers were down and I wouldn't have noticed.
Yes.
Was it only calling or was it all data or like cellular?
It was
Anything over cellular.
cellular stuff. So I was still able, as long as I had Wi-Fi. So when I was at home, when I was in the office, I am an iPhone user, so I was able to use the Wi-Fi calling and text over iMessage, right? But I was in like a group chat for a job that I was doing, and I was only getting the texts from iPhone users because they were using Wi-Fi. Any texts that were coming through from Android users that were other providers, not AT&T, I was not getting any of them. So I only had like
only affected Apple users.
AT&T.
Yeah.
It affected
No,
AT&T.
no, like Apple phones.
No, it affected
Androids
AT&T
as well. Okay.
Yep.
No, I'm just from the perspective of an iPhone
Gotcha,
user. That's how
gotcha.
it affected me. But it was anybody on AT&T and then Cricket because they're like a
Yeah, they
subsidiary
can't
of
use
AT&T.
everybody's networks.
Yeah.
Yeah. The where you get kind of the blurred line is with iMessage. It'll send via Apple servers over the internet.
Right.
But when you go Android to iPhone, it's
It
got
can't
to
do
go over
that.
the cellular network.
Right.
And so that's where you see that breakdown. Also, a lot of people thought that T-Mobile and Verizon were having outages too, but it turned out that it was them trying to connect to AT&T users. So this was limited to AT&T as far as an outage. Now, what's our first thought when a major outage like this happens? Somebody got hacked, right?
Big
Ransomware,
distributed
whatever.
denial of service attack. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you think. In this case, so far, nothing has been put forward to indicate that it was a cyber attack. However, AT&T did release a statement saying that they believe that they're not sure what caused it, but they believe that they were rolling out a change to their network. They were upgrading some systems, and their process may not have been followed properly, leading to an outage. Now, Microsoft had something like this happen a while back. They were pushing an update out inside of Microsoft Azure, and they had it scripted so that they could just run the script against 10,000 hosts or
and
whatever.
they forgot the semicolon.
And, it's always just a decimal point or something like
It
that.
really
and
is.
it borked everything.
It did.
And it cut them off from their management network.
It was good to know that they were just incompetent and
Yeah,
not
yeah.
insecure.
But in that scenario, they knew what happened. They were like,
Yeah.
here's the change we were rolling out. This is what happened, and here's what we had to do to fix it.
Right. It was an easy correlation to that. Yeah.
So AT&T is saying, we think it was tied to this update. And that seems a little suspicious to me because...
Well, they also, the fact that they brought in the CISA and incident response teams, you're saying, I don't believe that it is a security incident, but we've got a bunch of security responders here right now looking for a security incident.
Yeah.
That was odd to me. Like, don't you need some sort of indicator of compromise before, or indication that there was a breach of some kind or an attack before you would want to bring those people in? If you just, if you weren't sure on that, you would just kind of default, well, obviously we're making changes. It's most likely culprit here.
I think the difference, and I can't remember the term, there are utilities, things that are considered like basic human rights in the United States. and those are higher priority than other things, right? So
yeah.
Microsoft Azure is not considered a utility that we have to have access to.
But the cellular
But
network,
phone service is. If people can't call 911,
right?
then
Yeah,
that's
a
a
problem.
big problem. And so it may just be their default. Like when there's a kidnapping,
I
know
just
it's-
wanted to go, Alexa, call 911.
Yeah. So when there's a kidnapping, the FBI immediately gets involved.
Right.
Right. No matter what.
And we get Amber Alerts and that kind of stuff.
Right. And the reason is with a kidnapping, they've got like this small window of time, so 48 hours, 72 hours or whatever, where, in that period of time, they can successfully rescue people who have been kidnapped. But once you cross that time threshold, the odds of that person still being alive drops insanely. Right.
Yeah.
So they just cut the bureaucracy out. Like, hey, if it's a kidnapping, we immediately go to the FBI. So I suspect we've got similar stuff for the phone system, for water, power, and so on. So when they have a significant outage, they just immediately go straight to Code Red,
Right.
DEFCON 1, whatever.
And they just start looking for the assumed breach at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not. I don't feel good. I don't feel confident about what AT&T is saying about we suspect it was this change, because it's usually pretty easy to tell. I just rolled out this change.
And
Here's
then
what it did.
The shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Why the ambiguity?
Yep.
That's causes me pause.
Well, if you were affected, I know that I think it was Ronnie here in the office said he got a text saying, "Hey, we're really sorry about this. You're going to get a $5 credit to your account because you didn't have
spoiled
service
me."
for this many." Right. So a lot of people were upset about that. They were like, "Oh, that's a joke. $5. It can't make up for emotional damages, whatever it is that you suffered because you couldn't text your mom or something." But legally, for me, it was that I couldn't text my mom. But legally, they're not owed anything. There's no legislation or rules in place that say you have to reimburse customers for outages. So $5, I guess, really is generous.
Yeah, because you agree to some forms of downtime throughout the year.
Oh, you agree to all sorts of being crapped on.
And especially for something like this, where it's not like it was just specifically like what was just my service and I pay for this every month and I was the only one affected. Like lots of people were affected. So it's like, all right, this clearly isn't just a you problem. This is a bigger issue. But they're giving, supposedly, I haven't gotten a text like that, but supposedly they're going to give everybody $5 credited to their account and hope that fixes things. But yeah, it is a little concerning that it just kind of happened and then it was like, oh, it's fixed, and there's no real information on exactly why.
I feel like you ever watch like a movie or a TV show and a guy's trying to get information out, like a bartender or something, and they're not going to talk, and they go, maybe this $5 bill will change your mind. They slide it. Oh, sir, now I was a vault, but now I am a river of information.
$5.
$5 is $5, right?
All right. Before we get too far down that rabbit hole, we'll go ahead and move on. Like I said, we are going to talk some more about a different Russian hacking group. This is part of a segment we like to call Who Got Pwned?
Looks like you're about to get pwned.
Fatality.
I think Cartman's the next impression I'm going to work on. So I'll add that to my list of things to do.
I cannot wait to hear this.
Yeah. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Oh, man, no, I want to hear the proto Cartman.
It's after this article. We'll see if I have something worked up.
Because it just
We'll
sounds
see.
her voice.
Yeah.
It's a little, it's rough. This article comes to us from Bleeping Computer. Russian hackers hijack Ubiquiti routers to launch stealthy attacks, as opposed to really loud and out there attacks. So yet another case of Russian hacking. Was it a group? Was it individuals?
Oh, yeah,
So
it's a group.
they're identified as Military Unit 26165. So this is the Russian military.
This is APT 28?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also known as Fancy Bear.
Yeah, old Fancy Bear back in the action there. If you haven't heard of Fancy Bear, man, they have a long and luxurious list of hacks throughout the history of hacking here. A very well-known APT group. We constantly struggle with these a-holes doing stuff, especially attacking us specifically. So no big surprise that their name pops up in the news yet again because, well, they're going after that Wi-Fi. This is kind of a trend here lately. We reported on another hacking group using but home routers, and they've also gone after home router systems, IoT basically, to kind of obfuscate the attack for making botnets and things of that nature. And that's kind of what we're seeing here, though, right?
Let me just clarify here because Ubiquiti, like they're known
they're not home
for
routers.
making right. They're known for making low cost hardware, but it's really designed for
Enterprise.
small, medium office, and some large. Enterprise, they start to break down a bit on the performance scale once you get up to there. So these edge routers are designed for businesses, and a lot of schools use them. Ubiquity's had a bit of a spotty record over the years with security incidents, but I will say I'm going to compare them to Fortinet, right? Because I crap on Fortinet all the time. Fortinet has had a number of breaches over the years, a number of vulnerabilities that shouldn't have happened, and they've actively worked to cover that up in a number of scenarios. They've been less than transparent, and that's why I don't trust Fortinet. Ubiquiti, on the other hand, they've had a number of incidents over the years, but they've been pretty darn transparent about it. So they share the information. They tell you what to do. This one's pretty bad. The attackers are able to gain access in a way that's pretty persistent, like survives reboots and stuff. So if you have a system that has been compromised, or if you're afraid that you may have been compromised and you haven't detected it, unfortunately, what you have to do is a hardware reset. You can't just use a software factory reset. You got to do the hardware button to do a full factory reset.
You got to go back to basics on this bad boy.
Yep. And then apply the latest firmware update. So they've already pushed an update out to patch this vulnerability.
So the fix is rebuild your Wi-Fi network. If you think or you have been affected.
Do the edge routers do Wi-Fi?
Oh, I'm sorry. It doesn't it?
I don't think the edge routers do Wi-Fi.
Gotcha. Oh, this is the edge routers. I'm sorry.
Yep. I've worked with a couple, and they did not have Wi-Fi, but who knows what they've added since.
Who knows? They do love to add features. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, though. I didn't see where this was something that was. So Fancy Bear did not get into these routers due to some RCE, CVE that they discovered, but because people tend to have lax security, these things come out of the gate very open because you have to be that way out of the gate with a device such as this so that people can go in and administrate them, connect them to their networks, get all the configuration done, and then it's kind of up to you to secure them after the fact. I was reading in the article about how, unfortunately, most people don't update these types of devices. So they're running old firmware. So there's there might be known vulnerabilities in them, and that's how they got in. Or they left the defaults as they were and didn't change them, and they just took advantage of the fact that was the case.
Yeah.
And then they were able to infiltrate into that device and then add their malware to it, giving them this persistence and utilization of the devices. So if it is a CVE that we're using, it's probably a known one, and you just have to update. And if you're not doing those security things that we continue to try to preach to you, then you've probably left yourself open to an attack, because that's how it works.
And according to Bleeping Computer, the edge routers do ship with a default password,
right?
And they ship with automatic updates turned off. So they don't automatically update out of the box.
They're not opting into security for whatever reason,
right? And so that's a challenge. And you could say that's, for us as IT people, it's our responsibility to implement that security, but there's certainly more Ubiquiti could be doing. Still, though, if you want cheap hardware, they're one of the best at it.
Yeah, good way to go.
Yeah.
So, they've had a real tough time.
Because
they're the ones where the CISO had a backdoor into the system, and he posed as a hacker to extort them.
That's right.
And was
I forgot about that.
I've got
guy.
all your source code, and which he did because he was the CISO, and then he was set to investigate the breach that he caused. That he was perpetrating.
Yes.
Yeah,
you know how serial killers kind of implant themselves into the investigation, something they like to do.
Yeah,
it was like that.
Yep.
Except he was, he was a crazy person.
So
he wanted money too, right?
Several $1 million.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh wow! At least he's starting small and then working his way up from there.
It's important.
I wonder what pushed him over the edge. Like, how do you wake up one day and I would think that in his line of work, he's probably doing okay monetarily as far as his salary and everything goes. But one day he woke up and said, I've got an idea.
I've heard people, I describe jail as a deterrent, and I've heard some people say, jail's not a deterrent. And I'm like, hell, it isn't for me.
Maybe not for you, but yeah.
Jail is a deterrent for me.
I'm actively trying to stay away from that place.
It is
what stops
me.
Possible.
It's what stops me from doing half the crap I'm capable of.
Exactly.
So,
well, I'm working with a couple of would-be criminals here. This is, I'm a little bit afraid.
So for that guy to wake up one day and say, I'm going to do this, that means that he thought
he could really get away with it.
He had thought it through well enough that he could get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he just really wanted a trip to a nice state-sponsored hotel. You don't know.
I'm guessing this is why we constantly get attacked by Russian hackers and North Korean hackers and Chinese hackers.
Because they can get away with it.
There's nothing we can do about it, right? Well, yeah, we can say these are the hackers we think did this, and there are warrants for their arrest. And if they ever land in a country with extradition or our own, we will arrest them. They're just never going to do that. And not that it hasn't happened. It does happen from time to time, but it's really rare.
Yeah.
So, like, hack them. Like, what are they going to do? Don't go to China. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one guy who was a Russian, I think it was like a colonel in the Russian army who's on our wanted list. Like, hey, if he comes to the U.S., we're going to arrest him. If he comes to the U.S., we're at war, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's not coming here.
Yeah, he has invaded a foreign land, and he has actively attacked us.
It's Red Dawn.
Yeah, he's literally going to Gitmo. He's not going to, like, the local pokey, right? Where a sheriff's like, listen here, Russian boy, you done messed up and stepped into my one-horse town. No. A federal man is showing up, and he is going to, actually a military man is going to show up and take him to military jail, where you are now a prisoner of war. That's fun.
Yeah.
Unless he shows up with, the rest of his military unit.
That would also be bad. Then, then now we're in hot conflict.
Anyhow.
I hope we were going to get a Daniel as Sheriff Andy Taylor impression there, an Andy Griffith impression from Daniel. I guess I can keep
Barney
dreaming.
Fife. Well, Andy?
Yeah.
He's got the one bullet in his pocket.
Yeah. He's shaking like a dog shitting a peach seed.
What?
The analogies just never stop, do they?
It's my stock and trade.
Wow. That's brand new to me. I don't even, how do you follow that up?
That's one of those that has to be rooted in reality. Like
You've
somebody
never
saw
seen,
that.
Yeah, you've never seen a dog job.
I've never seen a peach seed.
I thought you
Dude,
said
they're
duck.
this big, and they look like they're made of hell.
Oh, God.
It's not something you would want to pass to your
Oh, my
GI
God.
system.
The ingredient list just says hell.
Oh, my God.
It's coming to Frogtown.
I've got a hell allergy.
man.
Yes,
Wow. I just, you see, this is my favorite part of the week for exactly this reason.
Goodness.
This is what I look forward to. I thought you
the
said,
articles are just a vehicle for us to go down the rabbit hole here.
I thought you said duck. And I was like, that's so specific. And you were like, that's rooted in reality. I'm like, when have you ever seen a duck go through that? That's insane.
I watched the entire thing. The duck eat the seed, and then I waited the requisite time for the duck to pass the seed. And let me tell you what, if I've ever seen an animal in distress, it was that day, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, some people have too much time on their
You
hands.
think a duck only makes a quacking sound? I'm here to tell you.
Oh boy!
Good
Wow!
times.
Thank you for that. That's you think about that the rest of the day. Thank you for
we're
that.
now scarred.
Yeah.
He quacks us up. He does.
He does.
Well, anyway, yeah, Russian hijackers, and that's.
Yeah, back
I
to
don't
the
think we
Russians.
can go back at this point. Thanks for breaking that down. Appreciate some of the details on that article. I also forgot to mention. I realized that as you guys were talking about this, I was looking up some stuff and realized it's Leap Day. Happy Leap
It's
Day.
today, yeah.
It is, the day that you're watching this right now.
Well, it
You're
only
watching
happens
it
once every 4 years, so I
Right.
forget.
Right. Yeah. So I think, as you're watching this, it's Leap Day. Happy Leap Day. Hope you're having a good day.
I saw a lady had 3 kids, right? And all of them were born on Leap Day.
Wow.
That's weird.
It was like a 1 in a billion chance or whatever it is that she would have all her children on a Leap Day.
So her children were 4 years apart?
I guess so.
At least,
Wow.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless she had twins
Yeah.
or something. That's crazy. Oh, she should go play the lottery.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, thanks so much for breaking down that last article and for teaching me so much about animal anatomy. If you enjoyed those kind of side streams, we encourage you to check out some of the other Technado episodes here on the site. If you think today was fun, we do this every week, and it's just great. We enjoy it. But Don did mention that we've got some updates for y'all concerning the show and the format and everything. So I'm going to pass it to Don to kind of break some of that down.
We've been soliciting feedback from our users and trying to find out ways that we can adapt the Technado podcast to be entertaining, informative, and all the various things that are out there. I need to go into AT&T operator mode here. We know that you have many choices in podcasts you can listen to, and we strive to provide the best possible service. So anyhow,
Do we?
Yeah, I know. We phone it in. So we're going to try something new. And starting next week, the podcast is going to follow a slightly different format. So normally we pick about 6 news articles and we lightly touch on each one. And one consistent piece of feedback we get is it'd be nice if we got to learn a little more about what's going on, go deeper into something. And, we mentioned our day job from time to time. I'm an administrator, a bureaucrat. I fill out paperwork, right? But Daniel and Sophie are filming cybersecurity content every single day, and they dive into how this stuff works, how an exploit functions, how you can detect if you've been exploited, how you can protect to make sure you don't get there, all the different ins and outs, and they just go really deep into that stuff as a part of our training content. So we're going to try and bring that here into Technado. Instead of covering 6 articles, we're going to cover 1 or 2, a smaller amount, but we're going to go deeper into it. Now, when we do that, Daniel is our cybersecurity expert. He's the one who understands how this stuff works. And not only can he explain it, he can show you. So we're going to go a little heavier on the visual elements. So for those of you that are listeners, we're still going to describe what's going on. But for those of you who are watching, you'll actually be able to see some of this stuff pulled off, see information on it, and just lean a little more into the video format, because the bulk of our people are watching us on YouTube. We want to make sure that we're conveying the best information we can. Now,
we'll still be having fun, though, right?
We'll still be having
fun, still
Mandatory.
joking it up, yucking it up. It'll still be a really good time, but right.
Yep. And when you dive into that, what is it? 2's company, 3's a crowd, right? 3 people's a little bit too many to have us tackling that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to step away a bit from Technado so that Daniel and Sophie can do what they're great at, which is really show how that stuff works and help you learn more about what's going on. And then I'll pop back in from time to time, as usually if we need somebody to make fun of Microsoft Moments or something.
If we need some 80s references,
there we go.
I'll be like, I'm missing my 80s references. I'm bring Don in.
Yeah.
But it'll be a different format, and we're going to launch that. It's going to start next week. And my ask to you guys, and I'm not making you voluntold, but give us feedback. Watch it. Tell us what you think. And if you have suggestions, be sure to share that with us, right? We've got our YouTube comments section, which we actually do pay attention to. We read the comments that go in there. You can also send us emails. You can go to the technado.com website. Send us any feedback you have. Give us suggestions, and we'll try it out for a few weeks, see how it goes. And if it works, great. I think people will be really happy with it. Then we'll keep going that way. And if it doesn't work, great. If Daniel sucks, then tell us that. And
so we're going to hear that a lot.
We'll get that already.
It's just me with 7 ghost accounts.
Yeah.
So we'll make some changes. We love to hear from you guys. You all, you keep us around, right?
Yeah.
If we didn't have our viewers, we wouldn't be doing this stuff. So we want to make sure that we're giving you the best content that we can.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we spend, however much time we spend, 60 minutes, 90 minutes talking, and you guys listen, and we want to hear from you too. So it is always good to see the comments and to get feedback like that. Whether you are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we do appreciate your time that you come and join us and let us banter for a little bit. So I think it's going to be fun. And
make it more of a learning experience with fun.
Right. Yeah. Because learning can be fun. That's what we do in our day jobs. Why not do it here? Right? Yeah. Hang on.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not fun. It's just scary with you.
That's true.
So we got to make sure we cover
Today
that.
we're going to learn about cigarettes and turpentine.
And yeah,
You know what? You'll never forget that analogy.
cigarettes, turpentine, the anatomy of a duck. It just, I learned so
peach
much.
seeds.
Peach seeds.
And peach seeds, which are made of hell.
Never seen a peach seed?
I've
Come
never-
on, man.
Like a peach pit, right?
Yeah.
I need to Google it.
Have you never seen a peach pit?
I
Like
don't
actually?
eat peaches.
You-
What do I look like?
Oh, excuse me. Okay. Yeah, it's they are kind
It's
of
a really
scary looking.
pretentious fruit.
You got to work at it. And I guess some people are put off by the like fuzz on the skin. Some people don't like that
I
about
could
peaches.
see that. It's like an interesting sensation when
It's
it
really
hits your
not that
tongue, but
bad.
then it's
But
really good.
It is a sensory thing for some people. I think.
Yeah.
What do you think
Are
about?
you seeing it now,
Don's
Don?
got
It's
some
just
pictures.
a giant seed.
It's
It's not.
It does kind of
I
look
thought
like
it
a
was going to be
walnut.
spiky after your description.
Well, you can see that it has ridges
It
and
does.
sharp edges.
All right.
Yeah, it's like a
all
little
right, I'll give you
brain.
that.
Looks like a walnut.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to eat one. I guess that's the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Where's your sense of adventure, Don?
For one, I'm just so disappointed. Well, thanks so much for kind of walking us through that and just giving the folks a heads up on some of the changes that are going to be coming. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. And like Don said, we love to hear your feedback. Once again, we want to thank our sponsor, ACI Learning. Like Don said, that is what we do in our day jobs, and we do enjoy every minute of that. We make learning fun here with audit, cyber, and IT content. If you're listening from the Technado website, you can look for that sponsored by button. Click to go to the IT Pro website. And if you want to support the podcast, check out those courses. Once again, drop a comment. Let us know what you thought about this episode as well as any future changes. I think that's pretty much going to do it for me. Anything else from you guys?
That's it. It's been a busy week.
Been a busy week.
Let's call this a day. I got some seeds to pass.
Oh, right. Well, I'll get the duck out of here then. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Technado, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's show, consider subscribing so you'll never miss a new episode.